Oh, sorry. Okay, what's up guys? So today I'm going to show you how to build your own deep learning computer. The case we're going to be using is the O11 Air. We're using a Threadripper CPU and 1080 Ti GPUs, and all the stuff is on my website. So far, I've just prepped the case and the motherboard. So you can look at the case here. I mounted the power supply. The fan needs to be pointing out. I installed the motherboard back bracket here. I removed the hard drive cage that used to go here. That used to be here. Remove that. I removed the two bottom trays because you're gonna need slots on the bottom for your two additional GPUs. Motherboard here, I just put in the CPU in there. The instructions are there. I put the SSD in the last slot because I think I want to do one GPU here and maybe another one at the end, or maybe one here and one below, so this maybe a little bit less heat. I didn't use the shield because I think a lot of people said on the internet that's a bad idea and it overheats the drive, so I just tossed that out. Now I'm gonna put the motherboard in, and then after that we'll go ahead and attach the CPU cooler. Let me get to work. Alright guys, I went in and put in the motherboard. This is now just mounted in. There are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws. 9 screws total on the motherboard. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put in the CPU cooler. That's this guy. I think to prep the cooler, you need to put the mounting bracket for the Threadripper on instead of the default one. This is the fractal cooler. So the tricky thing is to pop it off, you just kind of have to grab it by the hoses. I saw people on YouTube doing this. I thought it was a bad idea, but that's actually how you do it. You grab it by the hoses and then you just twist this metal bracket and then it pops off. I'm not going to try to do it again, but that's how it comes off, and then you can mount it back on. Anyway, so I'm going to put in the cooler now. I'm going to mount the radiator on top of the box, and I'll show you that in a second. Oh, sorry. We're supposed to be putting together a computer. Well, actually, because I'm installing the cooler, you actually need some alcohol to clean off all the thermal paste. And typically people use isopropyl alcohol, like 97%, but it turns out, if you look on YouTube, vodka works just as well. So you can use vodka, or you can actually use isopropyl alcohol, which is actually what I used, but this is super fun. Let me just show you. So I cleaned off the thermal paste off of the cooler, and also cleaned the CPU off. Put on some thermal paste. This is the Noctua NTH1, super well reviewed on Amazon. That's about, I think AMD actually recommends a different dot pattern for the thermal paste, but there's a YouTube tester that did a test, and the center big blob on the center works the best. So now I'm gonna go ahead and screw in the cooler. I think I'm also gonna put in the fans, 2 fans at the front and 2 fans at the back. So these are the fans at the front, mainly to cool the GPUs, because I think the GPUs get really hot. And then in the back, it only supports a small 80mm fan, so I have this small one here made by Cooler Master. This is the 3BN F1. So yeah, I'm gonna do that right now. Alright guys, so I went in and screwed in the water cooler, the AIO, and then I put in the fans. So let's take a look. So there's my 80mm fan in the back, there's the 120s in the front, which blows right into the GPU. I had the GPUs in here a second ago, and I tested it, and they basically slot in, it works in all the slots, so that's great. I had to remove the front, the 2 screws at the top in order to remove the front panel, which now is on the ground there. So now I think I'm gonna connect the power cables in there and then put the GPUs in and the memory chips, and I think we're good to go. Alright guys, so I went ahead and connected all the cables, power cables and also the case cable, so let's take a closer look. So as you see here, this is the motherboard power cable, CPU power cables, fans are connected. This is the new USB 3.1 connector. HD audio, the power switches, hard drive LEDs. This one you have to consult the manual. On mine it's on page 21. They give you a little diagram of where things ought to go, so you just have to plug those in. This is quite a tight fit down here, and I really hope this cable is going to be okay. I did mount the GPU on top of this, and it does clear, even though it looks like it rides kind of high. I guess the GPU doesn't sit flush with the port. So this is about it. I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the memory chips and the GPUs. The trick about the memory is you have to consult the manual of how these ought to go. My memory uses the outside slot, then skip one, then uses this one. On the other side it mirrors, so it uses the outermost slot, and then skips one and uses this one if you have 4 sticks of RAM. And then I'll go ahead and plug the GPUs. I think I'm gonna try to plug the GPUs on these two first slots first, just so I can get a heat test. I was having issues with that with the previous case. Now I have these two fans blowing straight into the GPU. We'll check that out. Hopefully it posts. So I'm all done. I went ahead and connected the power cables for the GPUs, plugged them in, plugged in the RAM, and that's about it. I'm gonna try to set it up now and see if it'll post. All right, at least it turned on. Turning on is good. Okay, do I get an image? I get a BIOS. Ah, I got a BIOS. Okay, cool. Seems like it turned on. I am now going to plug it into my Ethernet so I can actually remote SSH into it. So let me try to do that and run some tests. All right, guys, this server, I went ahead and sitting over here. You can kind of hear the fan noise. I have both the GPUs running at full throttle right now. It feels hot back here, but you can definitely feel the air getting pulled into the case, unlike some of the other cases I've worked with that are supposed to be the whisper quiet ones where you can't feel the air going in. I moved away from the Fractal Design C case, and with this case, you can see that there's about a 10-degree difference between the top GPU and the bottom GPU. The top GPU is obviously getting heated by the bottom GPU because the fan intake is right next to the GPU on the bottom. So the top GPU is about 82 degrees, 83 degrees, bottom is 72. This is significantly better than my other case that I was working with, where the temperature difference was about 20 degrees with the top GPU getting throttled at 85, 86 degrees. And the bottom GPU was running at, I think it's like close to 80 also at one point. I'm gonna move the GPUs around so that the bottom GPU is gonna be at the last GPU slot and see if that changes things. It should be, you know, much cooler. All right, guys, I just put the GPUs in a top and bottom position. So if you look at it now, one on top, one on bottom. This case is actually amazingly quiet. The fans are really quiet because most of the noise out of the box actually comes from the PSU. So if you get a PSU with a echo mode, which is what EVGA calls it, which is basically the quiet mode, then it's super quiet. And the only noise you hear are from the GPUs when they are actually doing work, because those two have two fans. As expected, these are much cooler in this configuration. So you can see both the top and bottom GPUs are around 71 degrees, which is like as cold as I've ever seen them. So this is great. So if you remember previously, when they're mounted side by side, the top one was like 82 and the bottom one was 72. So basically this tells me that as long as you have fresh air intake into the GPU, the temperature is about 72 degrees. But if the air intake is directly on top of another GPU, then you get a 10-degree lift. When you're using O11 air case with the fan blowing straight into the GPU. What doesn't work is those cases where the fans don't have good air pushing onto the GPUs. Then in those cases, you'll get something like the top GPU would be throttled at like 84, 85. I think throttling happens around 84, 85 degrees. So it'll run slower. And then the bottom GPU would be at like 80 degrees or something. So it's really important to have fans blowing right into the GPUs. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.